Hello there guys, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm here with the latest review from before the 90 days. And this is episode 2. And today I'm going to be covering Tom and Darcey and Big Ed and Rose. Thank you so much guys for all of your support over the last few months. I'm nearly hitting my 20,000 subscribers, just a couple of hundred to go, so if you haven't done so yet, please hit that red subscribe button. And also don't forget to give me a big thumbs up if you like the content. And a lot of you guys have been asking me, am I going to be covering Geoffrey and Varya in the light of Geoffrey's past? I'm not 100% sure as yet, but I think I will be. First I want to have a look and see exactly what his charges were and look through his rather extensive rap sheet. It might take me some time, so give me a couple of days, but what I think I'll be doing is doing a special video on Geoffrey towards the weekend, and so we can all look at pointers of how to avoid this kind of man. But anyway, without further ado, let's get to Darcey and Tom. So when we first see Darcey, she's trying on a wedding dress. Oh my god, has Tom proposed? Thank the Lord, no he hasn't. Because we all know if he did, Darcey would be stupid enough to say yes. But she's trying on wedding dresses along with her sister Stacey for her fashion label House of 11. And I gotta say, she does look absolutely gorgeous in the dress. It fits her figure very, very well. And I'm really glad to see that her and her sister are getting on a lot better than last season. They're obviously getting on their grind with their fashion label as well, which is good. They need to make those coins. And everything's looking fabulous. Everything except for the makeup, which seems to have been applied by Fisher-Price. And Darcey tells producers that she still wants a foreign guy. She said she travels all the time, so why not? I'll tell you why not, Darcey, because it's really very difficult to get to know someone when you are not on the same continent. You don't get to see them regularly, and you don't build up the kind of relationship that you need to get married in the 3 months that you seem to want to get married in. That's why it's not a good idea either for you or your sister Stacey. And then Darcey takes us on a little walk back down memory lane, and we're treated to seeing the brimming with bullshit, awful Jesse, and Darcey reminds us just how awful he was. We haven't forgotten, we could never forget. Even if I get early onset Alzheimer's and I completely forget all about Jesse, I'll never ever forgive. But then Darcey pops on her rose-tinted spectacles once more and she starts waxing lyrical about when she met Tom. And she says Tom was the perfect gentleman and that he was dashing. Yes, dashing away from you, Darcey, as quickly as he could from what I can remember. And she takes us on the ups and downs of the trip. But then she said at the end of the trip, we were back on track. Back on track, Darcey. If a key to a non-existent house is back on track, then yeah, okay. Tom lives in the basement of his parents' house. He doesn't have a key. He doesn't have a house. It wouldn't surprise me at all if you've got a key to some random person's Airbnb. And then she reminds us that just before the tell-all, Tom told her that he preferred to be single. I prefer Tom to be single as well, so he can't put any more women through his crap and his lies. And then Stacey and Darcey decide to go for a coffee. And as they're sitting down, Stacey asks her, so what's happening with Tom? And Darcey says she doesn't know. Ebird does. And then Darcey says 1 minute he says he loves me and the next minute he says he's not interested. Neither Tom or I know what's happening. I said Ebird does. Oh god, I'll just tell you. Darcey, Tom is a clout chaser. He's using you to replace all the likes that he'd bought from Instagram and to bolster his social media presence. Both you and your sister consistently go for the same kind of using guys. And the next time we see Darcey, she receives a text from Tom who tells her he wants to have a video chat. Okay, so who texts you to find out when you can schedule in a chat? A video chat, to all intents and purposes, is no different from an actual normal chat. So why ever would you need to schedule it in? I'll tell you why Tom wants to schedule it in, because he only wants to talk to Darcey if the TLC cameras are there. So when he Skypes her, she asks him how he's been, and he says he's been crazy busy with work. What work, Tom? You don't work. We've already established that your business is all a fraud. And then Tom tells Darcey that he's now healthy and fit. And really what he's trying to do is tell us, the viewer, that he's no longer the Pillsbury Doughboy, that he's got his act together, hit the gym, and now he resembles a little more closely his catfishing pictures. However, Tom, you're still a liar, a fraud, a confidence trickster and a time waster. You're also about 78% loser. But he tells Darcey he's coming to New York and he wants to see her. And she said, what are your intentions? And he said, I'd like to take you for dinner. I want to talk to you face to face. And she says, if you want to just break up with me, do it over the phone. I don't want you to meet up with me when you've got bad intentions. And he said, I've got no intention of doing that. And she said, well, it's happened to me before. Please don't throw me under the bus. And Tom said, I'd never ever do that. Tom, let remind you of events in the Ukraine. Firstly, you fed Darcey with drink, and then you tag teamed with Stacey in winding Darcey up. You ended up making her cry, and you left her all alone in the bar whilst you drank outside with Stacey. And then you told her the most scandalous lie of all. You told her, had we gone to Gran Canaria, I would have asked you to marry me. But I guess you're right, that's not throwing her under the bus. That's just throwing Darcey under a United States Army M1 Abrams battle tank. A bus would be too simple for Tom. And that's where the story finishes today. All I can say is, Darcey, don't meet up with him, finish with him, save yourself the agony and the heartache. So guys, let me know what you think about Darcey and her never-ending quest for a foreign lover. Do you think she's just making trouble for herself? I think she is. There's no way that somebody with as many complex problems as Darcey should be entering into a long-distance relationship, because she needs to be comfortable with someone and she needs to have someone to actually get to know the real her. And next up, we come to Big Ed and Rose. So Ed tells us he's in love with Rose and he can't wait to see her. And in just a couple of days, he's flying off to the Philippines to see her for the first time. But before he does so, he decides to go and talk to his colleague at work. And apparently, when he's not photographing fashion models, he's an interior designer, and he decides to speak to one of his colleagues at work about Rose. And she asks him, well, where are you going to be staying when you're there? And he said, well, he's going to be staying with her. And she said, with her family. Rose and her sister have got a shop at the front of a building, and they live in rooms at the back. And that's where he's going to be staying. And his colleague tells him, my mum's from the Philippines. Where exactly are you going to be staying? It's about 3 hours north of Manila. And she says, well, that's going to be a small village. And she said, it's very likely that they don't even have plumbing. And she said, you'll have to shower outside with a bucket. And whilst all of this is very interesting, that's the least of Ed's worries. But it did leave me wondering, where do they get water from then? If there's no plumbing, does she mean there's just not plumbing in the house? Do they just collect rainwater in the garden? Do they get water from a stream or a river? And I'm actually quite interested to find out. So Ed then tells her that he spent $5,000 on Rose in the last 3 months, and she thinks this is a ridiculous amount. And Ed says, no, it's all fine. And she said that Ed's an eternal optimist, and I think he's an eternal fantasist. And then Ed divulges something to her which he hasn't even discussed with Rose, and that's the fact that his sister has hit him up for money. So apparently she texted him and said, I need money, my shop's going to close down. And he said, well, I'm going to come over in a few days, so we'll discuss it then. And she said, nope, I can't wait that long. It's super urgent. I need you to send money right away. But whatever you do, don't tell Rose. Don't tell Rose. He doesn't need to tell Rose. She already knows because you two cooked this up between you. Let's think about this for a second. Where did you even get Ed's number from? And Ed says apparently Rose doesn't know. But this makes me really uncomfortable. I hope it's not a shakedown. Ed, it's not so much of a shakedown as a piss take. And his colleague says, well, have you spoken to Rose about this? And he said, no, I haven't. And the reason he hasn't is because he knows very well that Rose is in on this. And he says, I hope I'm not making a mistake. Ed, no, you're not making a mistake. It's not a mistake. For a mistake, Ed, is an act or a judgment that's misguided or wrong. A mistake is a blunder or a decision that you've miscalculated. This is no mistake, because exactly what you think it is exactly what it is. Rose and her sister have got together and come up with a scandalous little plan to try and wring even more money out of you. And the only reason you're not mentioning it to Rose is because you don't want her to call it all off. Obviously Rose has sniffed you out and she knows that you're a desperado. And to me it really is a shame, because I feel like Ed's probably an okay guy, but he's got nobody properly advising him, even though people are raising their eyebrows and saying, oh, I think it's a little bit weird and be careful. No one's actually sitting him down and going through every incident that's happened and raising all the red flags. So the next time we see Ed, he's with another friend and he's showing the gifts he's bought for Rose. And Ed's bought some popcorn, some sweets and presents for Prince. He's also bought lots of gifts for Rose, including perfume and lingerie. And he brings out a very sexy lace purple number. And his friend remarks, oh, you must be anticipating some fun. It might be fun for Ed, but I think it's going to be rather less fun for Rose. And I find this quite weird. They've been talking on the phone for 3 months. They've yet to meet in person. So what makes Ed think that it's at all acceptable to buy sexy lingerie? Pretty much when he hands that over, it's almost saying, I'm expecting to have sex with you. I think it's extremely presumptuous, and I think there's a lot of pressure on Rose. Ed, you're 54. Rose is in her early 20s. And guys, I honestly find this low-key disrespectful. But next he brings out an engagement ring and his friend says, oh my god, you're crazy. You haven't even met her in person and you're thinking about proposing to her. And then Ed tells us again of all the things that Rose doesn't know about him. So firstly he says he's 4'11" and not 5'2", but then he also says he wants to have a vasectomy because he doesn't want any more kids. He's 54 years of age and even having 4-year-old Prince, who's Rose's kid, is going to be overwhelming. He's already raised his child, he doesn't want to raise another. He's already booked himself in for his vasectomy twice and he's cancelled his appointment twice. But he said it's something that he finds it really difficult to speak to Rose about because he doesn't want to lose her. Don't worry, Ed, you won't lose her. You don't actually have her. You do know that, don't you? And this whole scene takes place in Ed's bedroom. And I start looking around and I look at the walls and everywhere in his bedroom are pictures of semi-naked women. Now I understand he's a photographer, but there's virtually crotch shots there. And there's at least 50 or 60 different photographs. Ed, this is starting to get real sinister. And then we catch up with Ed again and he's on his way to the airport. He says he still has a lot of unanswered questions. He says he doesn't know anything about her past. Ed, there's not that much to know. She's virtually just out of school. Maybe she can run over with you which girls she didn't like at school, which girls thought they were all that, and which girls she's never ever speaking to again. But Ed tells us this is his one and only chance of life again, and he'll never have another chance to get a wife and to have what most people have. And I'm really conflicted with Ed because when he talks like this, I really do feel sorry for him. I know that there's this whole thing about short guys and how difficult it is for them to find a relationship. And Ed for some reason seems to have got himself into the headspace that he has no chance of any other woman on the whole of the planet unless he's with Rose. And this is a massive shame because as we know that Ebird loves love and I believe there's someone out there for everyone. But Ed really needs to put his best foot forward. He massively focuses on his height, but I genuinely don't think this would be as much of a problem if he focused on his weight. And I know I'm going to get loads of people giving me massive flack for this, but this is a true fact. If you're struggling to find a life partner, you put your best foot forward. He seems to have good friends. He's got a nice home, he's got a good job, he's got 2 careers. He just needs to get himself physically fit. And then I think what will happen is mentally, he'll feel more confident. I think when you've got absolutely no confidence, that radiates, and anybody that you do meet that might even be interested just isn't. And it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the second thing is, I kind of got a feeling that Ed is obsessed with looks, and I think that he wants to get a very pretty girl. And I think if he focused less on the aesthetic and more on the actual person, he possibly would get someone that liked Ed for Ed, rather than wanting him for his money or a potential green card. And so while sitting in the airport, he tells us he's never ever travelled anywhere without speaking to his daughter first, and she hasn't spoken to him for a month, so he decides to video message her, and she calls him back, and you can genuinely tell he's so happy to speak to her. He wells up and he tells her about 4 or 5 times, I love you, and even though she was kind of a little bit monosyllabic to start off with, yeah, no, when are you back, how long are you going for, in the end, just before she hangs up, she says, I love you too. And Ed tears up. And we haven't yet had the opportunity to meet this daughter, and I'm not sure if we're going to. But she's 29. She's a fully grown woman. She should be sitting her dad down and having a chat with him. It's no good just saying, oh, you're with someone that's 6 years younger than me, therefore I'm just not speaking to you. How's that going to fix anything? If anything, it's going to push him further into the arms of Rose. She should be sitting down and talking to her dad about building confidence, about maybe going on dating sites in America, talking to her dad about getting healthy and weight loss, talking to her dad about not slathering his hair in mayonnaise and stinking like an egg salad sandwich. But I think it's incumbent upon us that when we see a close family member making a mistake, instead of just cutting them off, we really need to speak to them and try and get to the root of the problem and see if we can fix it. He's only fixated on Rose because he feels he has no other option. And his daughter needs to tell him that's not the case. And his daughter also needs to say, what really do you think you've got in common with a 23-year-old from the Philippines? Do you think you'll have witty banter? Do you think you'll have similar interests? If she really lays out a very, very good case, I think she can actually pull Ed back from the brink of stupidity. Ed's not in love with Rose. Ed's in love with the idea of being with someone, of having a life partner. Rose will be a 2-year partner at best. So guys, tell me what you think. Do you think his daughter's culpable? And also, what do you think to Rose's sister demanding money? Do we think Rose is in on it, or do we think she's an innocent party? Write your comments down below and I'll answer as many as I can. Please don't forget to press the subscribe button and also give my video a big thumbs up. And you can follow me on Twitter at mbird99. You've been listening to Ebird Online. Ciao for now.